us today, a lot of manufacturers have been asking us how to solve the problems that they're facing day to day. Whether it's a clunky user interface, sometimes it's a lot of processes in Excel, that production scheduling is slow, that only certain people know how to do it. Perhaps there's some functionality that they want to change, but it's an older system, and they are having some struggles with how do we bridge the gap between what we have today and where we want to be without having to do a rip and replace of an entire ecosystem of applications or systems, things that just already work but are not working as great as they need to be in order to continue to scale, to grow, and to adapt to the changing environment. At MCA Connect, we empower manufacturers to keep and build competitive advantages by applying Power Platform and Power Apps in specific ways, targeted ways that enable companies to scale, to grow, and to deal with the changing environment. Another issue that we've come across many times is the fact that there are many systems and they're all in different places, but the data is not consolidated in the same place. So this scattered system data really means that employees are having to open multiple systems just to do their day-to-day business. So this is a perfect use case for Power Platform, to be honest, and I hope that you'll join us for this journey, this webinar, as well as 2 additional webinars coming up. So in order to handle this sort of issue, we consolidate the data all in one place. Power Apps is a great way to do this, and I'm hoping to show you today how exactly we've done this in the past, how it could look like for you, and even give you some concrete steps on what to do next. I want to introduce Rich Weck right now. He is the Managing Director of our Power Apps and Power Platform practice. And how's it going, Rich? How are you?
Doing great, Doug. Thanks. Good to see you. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. So just a quick overview of what the Power Apps platform actually is. So Power Apps is a component of the Power Platform from Microsoft, which is made up of 4 major components, which is Power Apps, which is what we're going to talk about primarily today, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Virtual Agents. So this is a low-code to no-code suite of solutions or tools provided by Microsoft that allow businesses to build point-specific applications in a very low-code or no-code manner. But it's also without limits. So while it may be a low-code or no-code type of solution, professional developers, if they want to really extend it beyond the low-code capabilities, they're not limited to just using a low-code platform if that's what they want to do. But the beautiful thing about this is it provides a lot of benefits for organizations. One, it allows more people within the organization to build apps to solve point problems for their business. In current technologies today, or some older technologies, that businesses relied on developers to solve those problems, whether they were in-house developers or they outsourced to build point solutions for them. And that was expensive, time-consuming. Then they had to continue to maintain it, and as the systems got old, there was no way to upgrade. The Power Platform solves that for them. It allows, regular individuals within an organization who may not be super technical to have the ability to build some simple applications using this great Power Apps platform without the need to be a real developer. So it is very simple to use. It's very user-friendly. And the other nice thing is it's very quick to build in the Power Apps system. It doesn't typically take a lot of time. Most apps are very short in nature and duration and how long they take to build because it is a low-code platform. That doesn't mean you can't build something very complex if the organization needs to do so, but it certainly simplifies that whole process. And since it is on a unified platform by Microsoft, the upgrades are inherent. It's very easy to get the latest updates. It stays secure for your organization. You don't have to keep going back to the well and rebuilding that every time there's an updated release. The other thing that's very nice about the Power App solution is that manufacturers can implement solutions typically in weeks or shorter, depending on what they're building out. which means it's very, very cost effective. With today's inflation and rising costs and budgets, this is more important than ever. And so businesses are really diving in today and taking advantage of this platform by Microsoft. Also, one of the key components of the Power Platform are what we call connectors. That's really the power or the glue that makes Power Apps and Power Automate and all those other components very powerful. The connectors, it's the glue that puts this all together because it allows us as users of the system to connect to varieties of data sources that are out there today. We've got almost 500 connectors available to us right now, which means if you've got a system in your organization, chances are there's a connector for it that you can start building apps and interacting with today. And if that connector doesn't exist, you certainly can build your own connector to use that down the road. So it's very, very powerful in that sense. There are a couple types of Power Apps that we deal with today. One of them is what we call a model-driven app. If you've ever worked with the Dynamics CRM or CE platforms, such as CE Sales or Customer Service or Field Service, those are what we call first-party model-driven apps. So basically, we create an entity in that solution, and Microsoft for us builds the forms and the views for us automatically without having to write a single line of code. So it makes it very quick to build apps in a model-driven app. The other type of app we have is a canvas app, and so if you think of a painting, if you're painting something, you go out and you buy a piece of canvas. It's basically a blank slate, and you are designing that app from the ground up, including all the navigation and the user experience. And again, it's really point and click. You connect to your multiple data sources, and you're off and running. So it's very, very fast and easy to use.
That sounds awesome. I mean, in the end, we're trying to empower employees to do their jobs faster, whether they're ordering parts, whether they're planning supply, or making purchase orders, right? So as the labor force is contracting, let's all agree, and employee productivity, there's more emphasis on that than ever before, not to mention the way that we want to work and our preferences on the way we work have completely changed, especially because of all this work from home culture. And I think it'll be interesting to see if we end up with a hybrid model long term, if we end up with certain companies going completely back together to the office, and how that changes the way that we operate and how processes work. What are your thoughts on that, Rich?
I would agree. I think today we're being pressured to do more with less, right? So the Power Platform is a great way for us to do more with less, right? We're developing more solutions in less time with fewer folks to have to do that. So I think it's great, a great solution for us.
So another thing I think that comes to mind sometimes when people think about Power Apps is, what are areas that they can use these apps or enable their department heads, for example, or a power user? What are some ways that MCA has helped, or ways that you've seen people at companies actually champion these types of solutions?
Yeah, Dag, I think that's a great idea. With that, let me introduce you to Daniel Asadi, who has worked on another project for another one of our clients recently that I think can answer this question for you.
To your point, we've had different clients reach out to us and asking for us to change. Again, the big question is always the user interface of older systems, trying to modernize that for their team. And one of those use cases that one of the companies reached out to us about was that their plant managers having to click between multiple screens to get to a specific plant, and then once we're getting to that plant, if they wanted to update any production calendars, which will impact their schedules daily, they're struggling a bit. They were worried that eventually they might accidentally make a change that they wouldn't want them to do, or they would also want to publish changes in a bulk way or fashion that the user interface wasn't really letting them do. But what they reached out to us about was that, hey, we've got this kind of app idea, and they mocked the UI of the app for us on a piece of paper, and we were like, okay, well, just by looking at that and using the connectors out of the box for Power Apps, we're able to connect to the data source and create that app in less than 24 hours with them, and they were really impressed by the UI. They only had one screen now. They wouldn't have to go and click on multiple screens to just get to where they want. They could also use that easily on their tablets, on their phones. That's another benefit that I do believe it's a big game changer when it comes to the Canvas app, because we do know that a lot of times folks are trying to avoid having to log in and click through the different sign-ins and all of that to get to their app. So it just makes sense to have it available already on their phones and on their tablets on the production floor. So we were able to develop that in less than 24 hours, and not only just modernized the UI for them, but also reduce errors that could potentially happen if you do make these updates on the screen and you accidentally forget it, one, or just have issues with different users logging in and different users not making those updates at the right time. So again, this ability to enter data in bulk and just have one screen and a tablet on a phone was a big game changer for them, and they really liked the UI and the UX that we gave them. And again, this was one of these use cases that you have your current ERP system and you do have a gap, but you can have the Power Platform not set separately, but also be side to side by your ERP system and help you enhance it, because you don't really want to have your clients go through all these. Sometimes your clients don't want to go through these long-term cycles of changes of systems, but in this case, you just have these short-term type projects to not only you get the benefit of time savings, but also you get the benefit of modernizing your systems.
I mean, that's an amazing story. I think several questions come to mind, as I've talked to directors of IT and other directors of ops and that sort of thing. I think the top of mind question is, that sounds great. I want to have, a one-day summit top experience, right? How is that possible for me? And what kind of skills do I need? Or how do I maintain this thing? Does it, give me some perspective on how can I start my journey with Power Apps?
So, Dag, there's a bunch of ways we can get started. If you're interested in starting a journey in Power Apps, we offer an app in a day training session where we can come in and teach your users how to build apps in Power Apps. And at the end of that session, you've gone through building a Canvas app, a model-driven app. You've worked with Power Automate. And you're working with the power of the Dataverse, and at the end of the day, you've got a functioning example that you can use to extend to your own business if you so desire. So we give you all the basics in the span of one 8-hour session, all the basics you need to start building applications right away. It really is that easy to start work with. And then typically with those app in a day sessions, we try to do what we like to call a hackathon as well, and that's typically a couple-day event. Where in advance of us working with you on your app in a day, we get a couple of use cases or ideas from you and your organization of problems that you're trying to solve with some sort of application. And we sit down with you and the users that we just trained on app in a day, and we start to work through that use case using the Power Platform to show you how this technology can help you solve the problems that you have in your business, and then you can continue to build on that either on your own or if you'd like us to do that, that's fine too. But it gives you the complete understanding of how this tool set can help you in your business today.
That's awesome. So, I mean, where would a company naturally go beyond a app in the day or a hackathon? What's the next step beyond that?
Once they've gone through the hackathon and the app in a day and an organization starts to build apps, they may want to start putting some governance and some rails around their users building applications in the organization. So with that, either they can do it on their own, or we can help them implement the Microsoft Center of Excellence toolkit that's specifically around the Power Platform and Power Apps, which will help them provide some, their IT department put some governance and some rails around the use of the Power Platform within their organization. And in that, they can see, which apps are getting used, what they're, linked to, those types of things. And so it gives them a lot of power from an IT perspective to make sure that IT is feeling comfortable with what their users are doing with this tool set.
And another question I have is, can I use it with external users? Like, I want to enable better collaboration with my suppliers and give them feedback, or maybe want to talk about processing returns in a faster manner. Is that a good use case for Power Apps in this scenario?
It can be, depending on what your use case is. You could either use the Microsoft Power Pages tool set, which is part of the Power Platform now, or if you wanted to license those users, those external users, to have access to that same application, that is certainly an option as well.
Okay. And then if I have, let's say, I have a application that I'm just running in the plant, and it's not really, an IT application, so to speak, running somewhere in the cloud or in some server center. Is that still something that Power Apps could use or could interact with?
Yes, absolutely. We can interact with just about anything that's out there today, whether it's a legacy system, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's on premise. We have gateways that enable us to interact with those systems. So just about anything is possible with the Power Platform.
Wow, that's amazing. So why aren't more people using Power Platform then?
Yes, no, we definitely want more people using the Power Platform. It's a wonderful tool.
Cool. So with that, Rich, Daniel, thank you guys for joining. Really great insights into what Power Apps can do. I appreciate you taking us through those examples. Rich telling us more about the education of what Power Apps really is, where does it fit, how can I use it. I'm excited about applying Power Apps in a targeted way to solve those gaps that we're seeing and enable companies to be more agile, flexible, and consistent. And I think that you'll also find in our next episode that we're going to do something very similar, and it's going to be more at the process, workflow, and approval level with Microsoft's tool called Power Automate. And it's something that very much integrates with Power Apps. They come as a set. They're very complementary. And so please join us for the next webinar. I think you'll get a lot out of it, and I look forward to seeing you again.